Howdy gang, boys and girls. This is a bit of ductwork. It's a rectangular double offset that transgresses through two planes at 90 degrees. And they're not twisted surfaces, they're just rolled surfaces. Very easy, standard parallel line development. There we go. That's the elevation and the side elevation. Here we are. I've left a few surface lines on there. I darkened them up so you can chase it through. Pretty basic, but they're good to make too. See all y'all. Cheers. Howdy everybody. This is a large rectangular to round breech I made a few hundred years ago. It was in a hops factory and it was transporting conditioned air to two different workstations. You will notice at the end in the pictures that each leg has got a slide on it. And the slide is because seasonally the amount of hops that they would produce and would vary, of course. And of course the workloads at each workstation would vary according to not just seasons but shift loads, which is why we have the slides. It was made in 20 gauge gel. It was large in that it had a 5-foot spread and it was 6-foot vertical height. So I've just made up a little template of what it was back then. You know, the old school geometry. Everything's done longhand. The job went well. So cheers to everybody. I got a couple of pictures at the end. Bye. Howdy Yank, today's little geometric exercise. I'm going to attempt a mock-up of a vintage architectural rain head. That's a plan. Go around this way, and there's our profile. The profile I will just double. It's the back plate across here. Here's our patterns marked out here. I'm coming along. Hang on. Howdy Yank. So here's our patterns here. I've marked out. I've just started shaping. We'll see what happens. You can see there in the rough shape when you look at the rough shape to the profile. So yeah, I'll talk to you later, bye. Howdy Yank, I'm back with our little model. This is in like a decorative, a vintage decorative rain head. Hey, well these were quite common in my time. You know, the beautiful old buildings, brick buildings and factory walls and stuff. And they really do look, and they were so efficient too at what they were doing. Collecting copious amounts of water off large roofs. So yeah. Howdy gang. Bit of geometry for today. This is an inverted hood I did a long time ago. It was made in 16 gauge fully welded gel. It was an inverted hood under a multi-gang ripsaw, and I had to fit it into an existing pit that they had, so I had to come up with something a bit fancy. So I made this rectangular to round hood, just seeing how it went, and I didn't have to alter or change anything. It went as well as it could be. So it tapers in and just goes round the throat, round the corner and the heel curve. Had it squared around on the end of it. So in essence the hood is a 90-degree rectangular to square transition with a squared around on the end. Here's a little model of it here. I'll put the pictures in of the original. That's sure it. There we go. Hunky-dory, eh? See ya. Howdy gang. Today I'm doing a retracing the steps on a sight glass on a cone, on the bottom cone of a one of them fucking things. Howdy gang, today I'm retracing my steps on a sight glass on the cone of a cyclone. I don't have pictures of the actual one I did. I made a couple, but I don't have any installed pictures. But I've got the original worksheet, which I'll put in the vid. So there's our sort of like plan, elevation, side elevation, intersection by cutting planes. Always like that one. There's the pattern marked out there for the cone, and as soon as I finish the sight glass itself, I'll put a picture in there too. So yeah. Howdy gang, back again. As I was saying earlier, this is like a sight glass on the conical part of a cyclone. The development points are using the intersection of cutting planes, and then the development is parallel line and radial line. I don't have any pictures of the ones that I've done in situ, but I do have one original worksheet that I'll put in. So yeah. Oh, hang on. I forgot to show you. There it is there. The blanks are in it just to give the cardboard a bit of strength. So yeah. Howdy everybody. This is a job that I did about 45,000 years ago. It was a large breach as a fan entry. In this particular job they had 3 different areas, and over the years they just added in machines and just connected it to the existing system, and eventually of course the resistance is so high in the system that they started losing their pickup velocity in their hoods and sediments in their bends and stuff. So anyway, I looked at their fan, and looking at the specs, I thought the fan was very able to do the job. So I looked at the structure of the building so that we could build where we could find a median point where we could enter the building. So we put a new fan stand up and put the fan up there, and I designed and made this breech myself. This was made in 16 gauge fully welded 316L stainless steel. It's rather large. It's got a vertical height of 6 foot. It consists of a 22-inch main, a 10-inch at 35 degrees, a 14-inch at 15 degrees, and a 12-inch at 10 degrees. Thing about it was, this was done old school. I actually did a plan and elevation that was half scale, and then the true lengths that I developed, I then would just double and to mark directly onto the sheets. Which, you know, most of this sort of work now is just all the patterns are computer generated. So anyway, this was it, old school. I did this plan and elevation yesterday, and here's our model of it, a little template if you like, an exact scale replica. So there you go. Very interesting. You'll note this gusset here. When you look inside, you can see that that turning gusset is so important in the efficiency of that 10-inch leg at 35 degrees. So there you go, old school geometry, old school plan and elevation, and oh, by the way, this actually went like a dream. It was visually very striking when it was made. So cheers. "45 years later and the Gilbos will still cut paper. Unbelievable." Fantastic stuff. A lifetime of work, and in mint, you know, doing what they're meant to do is fantastic. Hi Alice, this is me. You know, I always like to get dressed up when I speak to you, so I got my hood on. Actually, this is it's a thermal heat shield when welding in confined spaces, repetition welding in confined spaces. Sometimes you have to wear a heat shield for the radiant heat, and this is one of them. Otherwise known as Peter the Red Riding Hood, I suppose, I don't know, or the welder, something like that. Anyway, howdy Les. These are traces here. I haven't done the faces yet, because I've got to get a different grade of wet and dry for that. There's one. And there's another. All very nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give this to trace, because this is a real claw hammer. This is a real one of them. As nice as they are. This is one of our dads. It's an Australian cyclone, 1950s. You can see it's got the bell nose head, the claw, much bigger in the body this way, and of course in the section for plan view, the section. So, and that belonged to our dad, and I've got the other one I've already given to Jim. So Tracy can have this one, part of the family history as well. So anyway, there we go, and I'll talk to you next time.
Say I'm crazy.
Today, boys and girls and friends and lovers, I've done some plan elevation of some old breech pieces, yeah, sheet metal. Particularly I made these in for sawdust. Here we have a straight breech, which is off a circular base, equal thread, the true shape of the joint curve through there. If you follow the heavier outside lines and then you just chase through the lighter surface lines, and then in pencil behind the scenes I've got the development lines. That's just one type of breech. I have on the other side a much more highly efficient breech, one that's far better than the other one. Howdy gang, on this side I've got a far more efficient breech. Again for sawdust. This breech has got a double rake in it, or hip, which you can see gives each leg far greater continuity in efficiency of pickup in both volume and hand speed efficiency. Got the true shape of the joint curve through here, this standing out like that. This true shape here is the one that stands out through here. Much more efficient with the double rake. Again, if you follow the outside lines, the heavier outside lines of profile, the lighter surface lines, and then in the background you've got your pencil surface lines. So there you go. Because if oils ain't oils, breeches ain't breeches. I did a breech once, a three-way, it was a three-legged one here, so it had your base and three legs, and I actually had a gusset cut in here as well. So all very interesting. All the old days gone by. And there we are. And guess what? Unlike online, I did it without rubber gloves or a texter. Geez, I'm good. See ya. Howdy gang. Today I'm just going to have a look at the pattern development of a 4-piece rectangular to round 90-degree bend. And I want to take a particular point of view on this. So, and that is, let's say you finish your apprenticeship, you're 2 years in as a tradesman, and you're expected to be able to do anything that they put on your bench. You're getting a tradesman's wage and that's it. Something like this, when it lands on your bench, especially as a young tradesman, can be rather intimidating. Anyway, we've got the elevation there and the side elevation. But when you break it down into its constituent parts, it's nowhere near as bad. For instance, if I take there is segment 1, just a standard triangulation development. Segment 2, just a standard triangulation. Segment 3, same again. And then segment 4 is just a first year apprenticeship parallel line development. Nothing to it. You put them together and Bob's your uncle. So there's our patterns which we have. And then I just stick them together and there it is. Pretty simple, but intimidating, or can be intimidating. Now I've actually made one of these once. The one I made was made in 8 plate or 10 gauge stainless steel, and it was 120 degrees too, by the way. And that's just a small replica. The one I did was quite big, but just broken down into its parts, and it just, it's all easy, mate. Enjoy your developing. Cheers. Howdy everyone. Today we have another job from 25,000 years ago, which was a 120 degree rectangular to round hood. It was made in 10 gauge or 8 plate stainless steel, fully welded. Here it is here. This was under a bandsaw, a large 12-inch cutting bandsaw. It was buried in a 8-foot pit. It sat on the bottom and underneath, and it sat underneath like that, like a hopper effect. Underneath it, rained in there. The proximity, it sat on the pit floor, and the proximity to the pit wall which is very, very close, which is why I incorporated this 120 degrees and incorporated the turn in the hood itself so that I could take a section out of the lobster back bend into the riser, which is what all that was about. This worked very, very well. Again, inside the hopper effect, bottom dead centre of your drive wheel was about here, and your shore line was about here, so everything reined in to there in the hood for pickup. It was 10-inch diameter coming out, 38 by 18, and then the hopper effect and the pit itself was probably about 7 foot across. Cheers. "45 years later and the Gilbos will still cut paper. Unbelievable." Fantastic stuff. A lifetime of work, and in mint, doing what they're meant to do is fantastic.
Say I'm crazy. Yeah, they say I never grew. How can they understand something they never knew? It's got me feeling funny. Lord, it's got me feeling so blue. Me running helter-skelter, diving for the blue bomb shelter. Through belly button window I heard, I felt the chant, I heard my daddy play guitar, felt my mama dance. Got me feeling funny. Lord, it's got me feeling so good.
Now, boys and girls, I have not done this for about 5,000 years, so we'll just have a little look and see what happens, alright? So anyway, quick little file off camera. Just take round it up, the edges of it. After 5,000 years, come up pretty nice. Cheers everybody. Howdy everyone. Today we have another job from 25,000 years ago, which was a 120 degree rectangular to round hood. It was made in 10 gauge or 8 plate stainless steel, fully welded. Here it is here. This was under a bandsaw, a large 12-inch cutting bandsaw. It was buried in a 8-foot pit. It sat on the bottom and underneath, and it sat underneath like that, like a hopper effect. Underneath it, rained in there. The proximity. It sat on the pit floor, and the proximity to the pit wall was very, very close, which is why I incorporated this 120 degrees and incorporated the turn in the hood itself, so that I could take a section out of the lobster back bend into the riser, which is what all that was about. This worked very, very well. Again, inside the hopper effect. Bottom dead centre of your drive wheel was about here, and your shore line was about here, so everything rained in to there in the hood for pickup. It was 10-inch diameter coming out, 38 by 18, and then the hopper effect and the pit itself was probably about 7 foot across. Cheers. Howdy gang. Today I'm just going to have a look at the pattern development of a 4-piece rectangular to round 90 degree bend, and I want to take a particular point of view on this. So, and that is, let's say you finish your apprenticeship, you're 2 years in as a tradesman, and you're expected to be able to do anything that they put on your bench. You're getting a tradesman's wage and that's it. Something like this, when it lands on your bench, especially as a young tradesman, can be rather intimidating. Anyway, we've got the elevation there and the side elevation. But when you break it down into its constituent parts, it's nowhere near as bad. For instance, if I take there's segment 1, just a standard triangulation development. Segment 2, just a standard triangulation. Segment 3, same again. And then segment 4 is just a first year apprenticeship parallel line development. Nothing to it. You put them together and Bob's your uncle. So there's our patterns which we have. And then I just stick them together, and there it is. Pretty simple, but intimidating or can be, intimidating. Now I've actually made one of these, watch. The one I made was made in 8 plate or 10 gauge stainless steel. And it was 120 degrees too, by the way. And that's just a small replica. The one I did was quite big. But just broken down into its parts, and it's all easy, mate. Enjoy your developing. Cheers. Howdy gang. Today I've got a plan and elevation here, and I've already knocked up the little model or template. It's a double offset, changed cheek, bend, and it's unusual in the point of view that I'll show you here. This here, that there, is a separate rolled throat that's in there, because what it does is it essentially opens up the offset. That throat here is here in the elevation. It comes in there and it comes back, straight back on the heel, which is from there to there. It's actually curved that way, curved up this way. Just interesting. Good old parallel line development. Turn around. And that there, in the black outline, that's the rolled throat that's added in. Taking the heel from here, and you come up and you go straight up to here, the top point, and then you've got this rolled throat in the corner, which it actually opens up the double offset. How about that? So interesting. I can now put in with my little collection over here that I'm building up, the flared ventilator. See you all. Howdy gang. Here's some stuff from this week's gear that I've cleaned up. Some lovely stuff. This is a £2 ball peen. It's made in England. I can't read it. It looks like Betlow or something. I don't know, but it's very nice. The hammer that it came with was, the handle that it came with was no good, so I've just put a good second on there. Very nice. This came with the ball peen. It's a half ball peen. And it's got very, very nice grain in the handle, which is, you know, highlighted, especially using the linseed oil. A beautiful square, brass edging, wooden handle, and steel blade, and it's it's got the inches on there, which came up very nice. You know, you square it up. It's a perfect square. Here's a 3/4 inch chisel. It hasn't got a maker's mark, but this has done a lot of work, as you can see. But still, it's better here than in the tip. A beautiful pair of Swedish EA Berg side cutters. But they're the Rolls Royce of this sort of stuff. And as like this one that I've used a second on it, I do that too. When I get good hammers, good handles, that all they need is a clean up, and they can have another life. And this is one that I'm preparing. It's been prepared and will now just go into my stock. This one, which came with this lot, is a beautiful Australian Cheney nail holding bell nose claw hammer. Very, very nice. This will go into my workbox, this one. Very nice. This one is from a couple of weeks ago. I've just added it in here because of the Australian content. Being a red gum head and a blue gum handle. That's a lovely piece of gear, that. This one, which is a 2-pound Dowie ball peen. And I've put it on a 17.5 inch long piece of Australian red gum handle. Beautiful, huh? I think I knew her mother. See you later, gang. Bye. Howdy gang. This was another job from way back, 25,000 years ago. It's squared around here at a vertical height of 36 inches. I've got it here on a reduced section because the rest is to scale. This is a 1/6 scale. Down line from the squared around, a whole lot of machinery was being upgraded, but there was a particular machine that we had to keep running. So while the other duct was offline, I made up this temporary fitting to run down to the big docker down the other end. So I came up with a tapered lobster back. But all the taper, when I measured up, all the taper I had to put on the heel curve, because right on the end of the oblique cone here, where it picks up the an existing 10-inch duct, was an obstacle coming out of the wall. So that's why I had to put the taper on the heel curve to come underneath the obstacle coming out of the wall. So anyway, it was very interesting. How it went well, it was only temporary, so because there's quite a reduction in it. The outlet on the at the top on the round of the squared around is 22 inches diameter. So the squared around was 36 inch vertical height. The throat radius on the tapered lobster is 36 inches, and the oblique cone is 36 inches of straight. So that made it simplified it quite a bit. So it was 22 inches on the top of the square around, into 16 at the other side of the tapered lobster, down to a 10. So you can see there's a 6-inch parity there, and then between the 22 and 16 there's another 6-inch parity of just dividing it up equal for continuity. And it makes it easy for development too, because that way every segment, there's 8 segments, so every segment is just a ½ inch bigger than the one before it. So that was that. And I'll put a picture of it in there too. This was down at Lloyd Gould's workshop in Marysville. See ya. Boys and girls, friends and lovers, today I'm going to make a little bit of a commentary about then and now. All this gear here, which is my my marking out, measuring up, pattern development and drafting gear, is all minimum 35, mostly plus 40 years old. All this stuff, all this gear, was brought at your local hardware. In my time, every 2 suburbs had a local hardware, and this is the quality that they would sell. You don't go down the street and buy this anymore with monopolies. So I also like to state that the difference between a really good job that you can do and the best job you can do is maintenance. Maintenance is a thing of the past since the disposable generation, which is a bit sad. You know, tradie does something at work, in the bin, straight down to Bunnings, buy a new one. Just stupid. But anyway, this is what we had, and now that's what you've got. But in the meantime, maintenance is so important for the best job you can do. Cheers. Howdy gang, here's a range of Miller Cyclone and a couple of Bear of equivalents that I have in my little collection. I just love them. There's a little bell I cleaned up yesterday. I took the oxidation off it and I'll now get some brass to polish it. Got a lovely sound to it too. Husqvarna I cleaned up yesterday as well. It's one that was very heavy too. Howdy gang. Today I got a breech piece, 2 square legs coming off, and got a round straight, bit of straight on the end. I've also, on this one, I've put a hip in it to open up the angle through the breech itself, because quite often they will just come off a circular base like you have here, but this one has got the straight and the hip in it to open up. You can see that it opens it up quite a bit putting the hip on it. There's a difference here in the 2 profiles. If you're looking at both of them, this one through here would be coming up a circular base, and this was the one with the extra collar with the hip each side. So that's it. Now this one here with two square legs and coming off a round, I've made one of these the other way round. I've made a rectangular one to 2 round breeches, and that was double offset too, and the diameters, the 2 diameters were different, and that was, I don't know, 6 foot high, 8 foot high, something like that. I'll put a picture in. Anyway, more geometric form for everyone. See ya. There we go. So here's our little model of it. The 2 square legs and the collar with a hip in it. There we go. There's a bit of my artwork there. Attempted artwork, you know, it's not art, it's just an attempted artwork. An exercise in relaxation. So yeah. Howdy gang. Today, going back on checking my memory, see if I can still develop a flared ventilator. It's hard on the old brain. So here I've got a half elevation, I've got a plan, I've got a side elevation. As you can see, I think I've transferred all the points around and then taken them up and taken them across to create these free-flowing curves with the old French curve there. They're straight in plan, the corners are straight in plan to a given radii in side elevation, which makes them free-form curves in the elevation. So now I had to do that today too. Get an inch and divide it into 1/8 so that I could easy transfer fractions of an inch into lineal measurement. Yeah, we did that. Went well today too. So yeah, I'll be back. There we go. There's the heel pattern, and then you've got the one of 2 cheek patterns there, and that's the throat pattern down the end. I'll now cut them out and I'll stick them together. And these flared ventilators, they double as an excellent fresh air intake with a bit of rodent-proof mesh, you know, which I've made before. So yeah, here I am, there the patterns. We'll see if I still got it or not. So howdy gang, I'm back. Here's our little model. One flared ventilator head. Pretty groovy, huh? Or, as said earlier, they're good for a fresh air intake too. Just put a grill on the front, rodent grill. Well, yeah, there's life in the old boy yet. See ya. Howdy gang, boys and girls and friends and lovers. Bit of a shame the closing down of the forest industry, sort of in a major sort of way, which brings me to this historical content of stuff that was done in Marysville, especially relative to the timber industry. So, I was looking through my stuff, the records, as you know I've been doing, sorting stuff out to go up to the Historical Society. And this is an original presentation I had. This was designed and drawn, computated by me in Falls Road. You can see it's actually addressed to Mr. Ronroe from me. It's a scale drawing, it's 1/20th. This was my presentation sheet. It came with a data sheet, which I've also got. When I submitted this, it was stated that it was too big for me to make, beyond the capacity of my machinery. This is 5 metres tall, 3 metres in diameter. Sitting up yonder. Over here, that's my beautiful hound dog rhubarb right there. This is the data sheet here, addressed to Mr. Ronroe. I've transferred the original plan and elevation over to here, and this has now got development and surface lines on it for other reasons, which we'll see. This is a common cycle, what's called a common cyclone. It's based purely on centrifugal force. There's no mechanical activity or filtering or stuff like that, just pure centrifugal force. This is a common configuration for a common cyclone. So by extrapolation, I took these algebraic expressions and, with my experience, extrapolated it into a helical top. This helical top cyclone. It's got it's a left-handed tangential entry into a helical top and you can see from this particular one here, 750 diam, that was coming out of the green mill, and it's the cyclone is receiving 17,000 cubic foot per minute. Very heavy wet green dust, so which is why I decided to use the helical top to actually really get it spinning, throwing against the sides. So just to go over that, this is the original presentation to Rowie. That's the original data sheet presented to Rowie. This was the configuration of a standard common cyclone, where I have extrapolated into the new helical top version. Cheers. Then, what I did, going over that, I made a little model of it while I was doing it. From this, not that one, from there. That's why it's got the surface lines and development lines on it, because I've developed the patterns. So here's an exact 1/20 scale of it. Rhubarb! So there you go. I used to walk around town with all these scrolls under my arm and on my back and all sorts of stuff. And in those great scrolls I used to carry around were all these design and computation sheets and presentation sheets, specifications and stuff to go out and stuff that I made. The next one I do will be the Weinig spider for the processing plant at Alex, the dry mill at Alex, which I was designed and drafted and all that by me, and I actually knocked it up at Motley Dunstan's Marysville Mill Workshop. Cheers. Be good. Howdy gang. Just taking some values and making it up, and just running through a very simple way of creating a fitting that we can put into a system by using surface area, cross-sectional area, as a way of a datum or a design point from which we can use to create the breech. So let's say the breech we're talking about will be two 14-inch diameters coming together into a breech. We're going to make it equal spread, and we want to know what the outlet diameter will be. Right. So, area equals pi r squared. For pi, I always use the fraction 22 divided by 7. The reason being, you get the full complement of what pi is, not whittling it down to a 3 or 4 place decimal point, which can be done quite simply. If I can find my thingamajig. Right, so I'm going to use a standard calculator, and as I go through it, I'll use it in longhand, in the calculator longhand, not using the scientific principles of shortcuts and stuff and stored memory. So 22 divided by 7 equals, there, up there, it equals 3.14285, etc, etc, etc. But I just, rather than abbreviate it back to here, back to there, I use the full complement, 22 divided by 7. So, the area, the cross-sectional area of a 14-inch diameter pipe is, the area equals pi 22 divided by 7 by r squared, which is 7 squared, because we're going to use the 14 inch. So, area equals 22 divided by 7. Area 22 multiplied by 7 times 7. 7 sevens are 49. Now 1078. 1078 units divided by 7 equals 154. 154 diameter units. Diameter units. Because the units could be anything. Could be feet, miles, anything you want. Right. That's one. Now we're going to do with two legs coming in. Both are 14, centrally located, equal spread. And we want to now chase around what the outlet diameter would be. Well, 154 units, square units, would equal, there's two of them, 154 by 2 equals 308. So 308 308 squared units. Right, now we're going to get 10% of that. 10% of 308. We're going to do it longhand, like I said, not just move the decimal point. So 308. That's the area. So 10% of that would be multiplied by 10 equals 3080 divided by 100 equals 30.8. Right. 30.8. That's 10% of your two 14s. So we add that in, 30.8 plus 308. 308 equals, so it would occupy an area of 338.8 square units. Alright, so we know that the area of the outlet, or the main, will occupy an area of 338.8 square units. So, using the formula, A equals pi r squared, remembering I use pi as a fraction, 22 divided by 7, so it simply becomes, in transformation of formula, when you shift a fraction you just invert it and continue. So 388.8 times 7, this is the fraction inverted, equals 2371.6. So divide that by 22 and it comes out as 107.8. Remembering that 107.8 is r squared. So we now just find the square root of 107.8, which comes out at 10.3826. Remembering that's the radius. The diameter is twice that. So we multiply that by 2 and it comes out at 20.76 square units, which would be, inches, which would be the equivalent of 21 3/4 of an inch, 20 3/4 of an inch. At this particular point in design, I'd bring that back and make it 20 inches. So, knowing that Q equals VA, the quantity of air, the amount of air, equals the velocity of the air in foot per minute, multiplied by the area in square feet. So we know the area will be contained in design principles 338.8 square units. Now we're just going to make, so we divide that by 144, that'll give us the amount of square feet it is for the next formula. 3, where are you? 8.8 divided by 144 equals 2.352 square feet there. So this equation states that the quantity will equal the velocity of the air in foot per minute multiplied by the cross-sectional area in square feet. So if we wish to maintain a transport velocity of 3,500 foot per minute, so we know that the area it will occupy is 338.8 square units design. You know, the wrap-up design. So, if we divide that area by 144, that'll tell us what, how many square feet there is there. So, 338.8 divided by 144 equals 2.352 square feet. That's the area of 214s plus 10% in square feet. We know from this formula here, this equation, Q equals VA, if we multiply the cross-sectional area by the design velocity, which will be 3,500 feet, that'll tell you how much the volume of air you will be shifting. So, multiply by, oh no, 3500 equals 8,234.72 repeating cubic foot of air per minute. There we go, it's a nice place to start. Adios amigos. And I couldn't believe it was a girdle. Yep. So what we've just done is very akin to this one here. There you go. Equal spread. 14 inch. At this point in time I would round that out 20 inch diameter. Just because I would. See ya. Howdy gang, boys and girls and friends and lovers. This is an absolute true story. This. About 35 years ago, I did a job for a bloke. It was actually a foreigner. I was doing it in my working hours. And so I do the job, and when I let him know it's ready to pick up. So he rocks along, pays me in cash. And as he walking out the door, he turns around, spins on a dime, and he says to me, "Peter, would you like me to rehandle your hammers?" I thought to myself, well, nothing wrong with my hammers, or so I thought. Now, of course, I don't know what happens in other countries, but this was in the bush in Australia, and you just wouldn't say no to a bushie. An old bushie, they had just respect. The carpet rolled out. So I said, yeah, no problems, mate. So over a period of time he'd come and get one and take them away and come back. And then in the end, this is the working set that I finished up with that he replaced, just because I'd put myself out for him. This timber, all these, this is hand hewn Australian mountain tea tree, and he got the wood from the mountain tea tree on the snow line above Marysville in Victoria. So they're lead wedges, mountain tea tree. I've linseed oiled them, regularly over the years. They've never moved from their set, not once, never moved from the set that he set them at. Just fantastic. Hand hewn for shape, weight, balance. And where I said in my introduction at the beginning, I hope you had something like this, because you won't go down your local hardware and buy this or anything like it. See, when I picked this up, this is, although the pattern is called a cobbler's pattern, but I've only ever used it as a flanging hammer. So when I grip it, when I pick it up, I got a broken shoulder at the moment. When I pick it up and I grip it, it grips me back. And unless you experience it, it's hard to visualise. But a hammer, you pick it up and you're holding it. When you pick these up, they grip you back. So you're gripping it and it's gripping you. And it results in this phenomenon, again, which is hard to describe, but the end of this arm ends at my hand. When I pick up one of these, right, in my neurological control in my brain, my hand now ends there, right, as an extension of me by the grip. It has other peculiar characteristics too. Impact dissipation, which with hammers, especially cheaper hammers, impact dissipation occurs in the head and can move into your work site, creating your hammer to jump around a bit, or it can come back up the handle into your hand. Right? The impact dissipation with these handles occurs on the hammer face. Right? It's like a magic plane. And the dissipation is a form of energy that sits between the face and your work, and it becomes usable. In terms of the power you need, the depth of what you're trying to do with it on the job, the dissipation becomes a usable energy. Another one, hard to understand, to comprehend unless you've had it. It's just fantastic. All these little tricks and action things and this is all the knowledge that you learn, that you lose when the old blokes die, when they pass on and go to the big sheet metal shop in the sky. But these things are a work of art. It's a work of art. For you blokes, who will know 16 gauge stainless steel, it's a harder bit of metal to work manually. I have cold flanged 16 gauge stainless steel with this and a dolly many times. These are just stunning. And just interesting while we're here, not one you see all the time. It's got the vertical peen on it rather than the horizontal cross peen. Man, interesting stuff. Anyway, that's the story about this magic set of hammers. Cheers to everybody.